All right, welcome to Week 1 recap of the Telegram 12 Fantasy Football League. It was a very fun week, a lot of good matchups, so why don't we go right into it? Now there's 6 matchups per week to go over because of the 12 teams. All right, so let's go in order. So we'll go with me, Public Enemy, playing. This will load. Playing Cash. Cash in his first career fantasy matchup. He had a nice game. He still put up 118 points, and he was missing a player, Cortland Sutton. He didn't play yesterday. So he could have played Sammy Watkins instead. That would probably been the next up for him. And he still would have lost, but he had a nice performance out of Lamar Jackson, Dalvin Cook. Robbie Anderson was a good start. He had a long touchdown that made things pretty close. So good performance by Cash in his first ever fantasy matchup. His team is going to be in the thick of things, and once he gets some more experience with the ins and outs of fantasy of Cortland Sutton, when you have an injury on a Monday night, you might want to possibly stay away because your options are more limited. Things like that. He'll learn as the season goes along. My team had a pretty good game. Josh Allen had a great game against my awful Jets. Zeke did his thing. Thielen had 2 touchdowns. Just consistent across the board. Jordan Howard, a little concerned about him. He only had like 8 carries, so I thought he was going to be a lot better. I had John Brown in my lineup most of Sunday, and then at the last second, I went with the risk play with Evans, and by like 1:30, I already knew that's the wrong decision because John Brown was just killing the Jets like I knew he was going to, and I don't know. I went with Evans. I was lucky that didn't kill me. Still had a good performance, and we'll see. We'll see. Dobbins had a good game on my bench, so we'll see if he will take over the running back 2 spot on my team coming up. All right. Next game. Oh, I like this screen now with the top. I love that. So I have to keep going back and forth. Next game we have is Bill, defending champ Bill, Big Bulls Bullies, and going against Fawad. So Bill scored 150. I believe he was the top lead. He was the leading scorer of the week. He had the 2-headed monster of Josh Jacobs and Raheem Mostert. Both looked incredible yesterday. Mostert with the fastest touchdown in a couple years. He hit like 23 miles per hour. Dak didn't even have that good of a game, and he still put up 150. And Bill put up all these points with like Ingram didn't do much. Deshaun Jackson didn't do much. Marvin Jones didn't do much. So like he put up this big score line without that much depth. So his team, like again, we're looking at possibly another league winner. We'll see. Let's see. So Fawad, I believe he scored the least amount of points. We had the number 1 scoring team versus the last. Singletary and Scott just kind of killed him. Boston Scott was supposed to be a lot better against that Washington team. Saquon had like 6 rushing yards. Pittsburgh defense looks insane. I thought the Giants looked pretty good, honestly, all things considered, against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defense just looks like the old school Pittsburgh defenses. Not much else to talk about. Breeze had 18 points. So we'll see if these guys start playing a little bit better for Fawad. Cooper Kupp a little concerned about. Crowder on his bench wouldn't have done much, so Fawad goes to 0-1. A close game going into yesterday's Monday night matchups was Mo and George. Mo had, I'm looking at this for the first time, so A.J. Brown really didn't do much yesterday at all. He missed that wide open touchdown towards the end. That would have sealed it. Kamara looked really good. I honestly thought he had more than 21 fantasy points. Watching that game, he just dominated. So he's looking like he's going to have, after getting his contract, um, he's going to have a big year if he could stay healthy. Kyler looks great in year two. I'm very excited about that. Mark Andrews, uh, you know, Cash went with Waller over Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews looks like he's the right pick so far. Galladay didn't even play. He has Darius Slayton on his bench, who looked like the number one wideout for Daniel Jones. That could be a breakout potential right there. And most teams looking pretty good. Deontay Johnson, he only had 6 fantasy points, but he looked very much in the fold. Watching that Monday night game yesterday, he's going to play better. Mo, 130 points, but his team's looking pretty good this year as well. George was led by Devontae Adams and Julio. That's a really good stack, like I was saying the other day. Running backs are going to be a concern. Now with Marlon Mack out for the year, he doesn't have, Jonathan Taylor stacked with him. He has Montgomery. Montgomery looked healthy, so let's see if he's going to need Montgomery to fill in. I mean, James White's not the greatest running back either. He's having running back problems. He needs one of these guys on his bench to kind of step up. And now even with James Conner hurt, and looking like Benny Snell might take over the starting role. I don't know. He's having running back issues. But that's why he played the waiver wire. And he's got the wide receivers. He's got Julio, Devontae Adams. I mean, Odell, not great. Almost hoping for if you're an Odell fantasy owner, you're almost hoping for a trade. I mean, he was open yesterday. But you watched, some of the film, like some of the guys were going over on Twitter. Like he was open, and Baker he's just awful. Baker was awful. So SN returned to glory. SN from like 4 or 5 years ago when he had the powerhouse fantasy season in our first year or second year. Maybe returning to that. He's got a great name. And my guy, I love this guy, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Had 20 points, but it seems more dominant than that. He could have easily had more than 30. He kind of screwed up, or I guess his offensive line kind of screwed up on those goal line touches. A little concerned about that for his overall fantasy ceiling, but this guy should put up consistent points every week. Russell Wilson looks like he could be the MVP candidate. He was insanely good. I think he was 31 of 35, and the 4 incompletions, one of them, Metcalf just fucking completely dropped. He was great, absolutely great. And he did this, he scored 144 points without Chubb, Moore, and Devontae Parker really doing anything. Will Fuller looked pretty good. Saints defense against Tampa, that was a risky start, but a very good reward by 17 points. Was probably one of the highest scoring defenses, if not the highest scoring defense this week. So very good first week by SN, beating Raheel. Raheel had 110 points. Carson looked good. And that was about it. I mean, Brady put up fantasy numbers, I guess, but he really didn't look that great. Robert Woods looked really much in the fold in that Dallas game. He should be a consistent player. He looked like their number one option on that team. Robert Woods, no one ever wants to draft him, but every year, I mean, I guess for the last 3 or 4 years, he always produces consistently. I love Robert Woods. He's on a lot of my teams this year. He got screwed by Michael Thomas too. I almost missed that. Let's see what's going on. Michael Thomas, he looks a little bit hurt, and I don't know when he got hurt in that game, so I don't know how much that influenced his, his production. Obviously, they didn't need him because the Saints kind of dominated that game from the get-go, or after that first drive by Brady. So we'll see. I mean, Michael Thomas is a big part of, obviously, of Rahil's team, so he's going to be kind of relying on that. And now we got Kaleem and Yates. So Kaleem wins 117. was led basically by Ryan and McCaffrey. McCaffrey again, just doing what he does. David Johnson looks like a great pick. He is essentially the entire Texans offense with him and Deshaun. I mean, Texans look terrible. And Noah Fant, possibly a breakout tight end this year. I loved what I saw of Jerry Jeudy last night. That dude played so much better than the 7 points he put up. He had 2 big drops, but that guy out of the slot, Jesus, his route running. If you didn't get to catch the game yesterday, look at some of the highlights of him on Twitter from that game with the his release off the ball. Like, he looks so quick. He looked great. I think he's, if Drew Lock is anything, he's Jeudy might have one of the best rookie wide receiver years in a while. Not as good as Odell was, and Khalil kind of did this with a -9. This is why I hate defenses in fantasy football. I made that kind of known. And a -9 by that Vikings defense. I mean, the Vikings defense was supposed to be pretty crap going this year anyway, but I just the negative points, like that just kills you. He's lucky he didn't kill him in this. I mean, if he even got let's say he got 4 points out of his defense, that's like a 15-point swing. So defense is making a difference already. Yates had Sanders out, didn't back him up with Boston Scott like that. That wouldn't have made a difference anyway. Rodgers on his bench. I mean, could have put in Rodgers, would have won. I would have went with Stafford anyway, though. I mean, Rodgers didn't do much last year other than a couple games, so can't blame him. Got screwed over by Joe Mixon. Schuster looks really good. That's a good sign for Yates. He's going to need Schuster as his number 1 wide receiver to do what he was supposed to do last year for my team. Metcalf looked good as well. So, I mean, his team still has some upside. I mean, next week he could start Rodgers and have Sanders back. And, I don't know, maybe put someone else in for Breda. I mean, that Dolphins running back situation looks a lot more cloudy than I expected. So, we'll see. And then he's kind of relying on kind of Nick Chubb injury, as awful as that sounds. But, I mean, Kareem Hunt's going to be great, but he kind of needs more opportunities. Last game, I'm running out of breath. AK. He beats Hassan. Hassan has Mahomes, and basically that was it for him. However, Marlon Mack got hurt for the year. So you have Jonathan Taylor, who already, that pick was kind of questioned by people in the draft, and it's looking like, what Jonathan Taylor showed in that game. He's not even supposed to be a receiver, and he got most of his big plays off receiving plays. So we'll see. I mean, Jonathan Taylor could be a big part, and it could be kind of a huge. He's a huge part of Hassan's team now. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Cam Akers, not great. He did get a lot of touches though, so we'll see kind of how that Rams running back situation looks. Kittle got hurt. That kind of screwed him over a little bit. I thought CeeDee Lamb looked really good in that game. He just needs a touchdown, and that would have been a really good game for him. James Robinson was the only player in Week 1, I think, to get 100% of a team's carries, so that's a really good sign. So Hassan, I mean, we'll see. I think he had, other than Fawad, I think he was only a point higher than Fawad. Not a great first week, but the upside might be there. We'll see. AK, had 112 points in a win. Watson looked, running for his life, but he always put up those rushing numbers. Even in garbage time, I think the Texans might be pretty crap this year, but he'll still put up numbers even in garbage time. Hopkins looked really awesome. Henry had a down game without any touchdowns, and he still put up a decent day. Melvin Gordon looks pretty good. Now, I think Lindsey got hurt as well, and that means that frees up more spots for or carries for Melvin Gordon. So, yeah, I mean, AK comes out with the win. Trying to look at his bench or anything. I don't see anything. Jalen Reagor looked pretty good. I thought he put up 6 points, but he got open. So we'll see how that kind of evolves with Jalen Rager. Yeah, Cooper was more involved than I thought. Basically, anyone but Michael Gallup. I was expecting more on Michael Gallup. We'll see how that kind of folds. So, take a quick look at the standings. I mean, it's only 1 week. I did notice that my division, all undefeated, all got wins first week. I said from the beginning, or I said before the season started, I was like, look, we have the toughest division. I was talking to Mo, and looks that way. 3 pretty good teams in this division, Mimo and Kaleem. Bill's division, he's up 1. He's leading that. AK, SN, and then you got all 0-1. And this not a great first week for the Bangers. Kind of questionable division names here. And then this is kind of what I like to look at anyway. Leading in points, Billy was leading scorer. I was second. SN third. We kind of had this top tier right here, and then actually Mo was kind of in that too. And that was about it for this. We'll do a quick look at the score or the projections for next week or the matchups for next week. I'm not going to go completely in depth. I'm just going to kind of look at them. So we have me versus Yates. We have Mo versus Billy. That's a good matchup. Fawad and Raheel, 2-1 teams that I believe in the same division. Yes, so this is a very important game for both teams already. You got SN and George, both in the same division as well. George trying to tie up his SN. You got Kaleem and AK, both 1-0. And you have Hassan and Cash, both 0-1, try and get their first win. We'll see if Cash gets his first ever fantasy football win against Hassan. And that's it. We have waivers today. Put in your bids. And other than that, I hope everyone has a good week. Glad to be doing these videos again. And I will see you at the next one.